Welcome back, alumni. See some local Bonaventure fans. Thank you for joining us today, too. I'm Tom McElroy, class of '74. They've asked me to moderate this panel, but we're really going to let these two terrific coaches talk. But I want to acknowledge that any time or whatever success I had in college sports was because of Jim Sallin. In 1977, a gentleman named Jack Ritzenthaler retired after 31 years as the SID here, from Eddie Donovan to Jim Sattler, and Bob and everybody in between. And Father Crispin McGuire, I was working in alumni relations, says, "You're going to be the SID next year." Larry Weesey and Jim Sattler had no say on that. And the little wise ass I was on the BV, I once wrote a story about Jim. And lo and behold, suddenly I'm his SID. Now, I got cut from high school cross country. So, you can't tell. Joanne's the athlete in our family. So, but what this man did for me, and later Dave Gavitt, they gave me an opportunity to be a part of this great game and to be a part of college athletics. And I'll be ever grateful for Jim and his staff of Billy Calbar and Bob Sassone that they allowed a very, very young person to be part of this. And this game has given, somebody who couldn't play or coach has given me so much. So I'm honored to be able to host this. And thank you, Jim. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A few house cleaning issues that we want to address. President Gingrich is with us. He's in the house. He's had enough time to speak today, so he's actually said I can do it. We have a Hall of Famer in the house. The slimmest dude to walk this campus, Lenny Price. One of only 4 Bonaventure players to average double-double, points and rebounds in his career. Only 4 in our great history. Glenn Price. We welcome another Hall of Famer back from another sport, our new athletic director, Bob Beretta, class of '87. And I know we're all ready to give him the support that he needs to support Mark and our other programs as we go forward. We have a little bit of a time constraint here because Mark and Jim were able to rearrange their day because of something that they take very, very seriously. And later today, and actually as soon as we end, we've got to get Coach Schmidt on the way. Mark's being honored by the Coaches vs. Cancer National Organization in Rochester this weekend for his philanthropic work on behalf of Coaches vs. Cancer. And it was Jim Sallin who nationally directed Coaches vs. Cancer for 18 years that got Mark involved. So we talk about our Bonaventure spirit, and it lives on in the work of people like these two gentlemen. And typical of Jim, he credits Bill Calbar, who built the organization, because Billy went out and recruited the coaches that became the backbone of what Coaches vs. Cancer is today. So if they've got to run on us, please excuse them. They've got good work to do. They sit here, we have 1,444 victories. Between Mark and Jim, 40% have come with them being a part of this program. Jim is a player, an assistant, and a head coach. And Mark, as obviously our head coach, about to begin his 18th season. In those wins, they both have together led us to 5 of our 8 NCAA tournament teams, 4 of our NIT teams, we have 17 total, and of course they reached the greatest height in the NIT with Jim winning the tournament in '77 and Mark getting us to the semifinal just 2 short years ago. Great testimony to their coaching. What we wanted to do today is talk about what's going on in college basketball. We're all fans, we're not intimately involved, but things like portal and transfers and collectives and these names that are flying around, what's going on in the game? and to a degree, how does it impact St. Bonaventure? So we wanted to start today. I'd like to say that the game comes, I hope Mark agrees, the challenge to a coach is to build program and culture because of the roster changes that are constantly going on in the game. It's not unique to St. Bonaventure. So we're going to ask Jim to start on how he didn't coach in that era. He stays close to the game, not just through Coaches versus Cancer, but he continues to be a mediator. He's the color voice of Syracuse basketball. So he's talking to coaches every day. Hey, he's got to earn a living. He worked for the Friars. A lot of us worked for the Friars for a long time. He's got to earn a living. So I really wanted Jim to start and talk about culture and program building, and then we'll segue into where the game is at today, Coach.
Thank you, Tom. First of all, Bob Beretta, congratulations. I've heard nothing but great words from everybody here on yesterday's press conference, so congratulations and welcome to St. Bonaventure. We're happy to have you here, I know that. And I got to mention my man here, Glenn Price. Glenn was my first year coaching as a freshman. He was a freshman, it was my first year, and then his senior year I took over as the varsity coach, so I had him as a freshman and a varsity. And even to build on that, what Tom said with 4 guys, there's only 2 people in the history of St. Bonaventure that averaged 20 points and 10 rebounds every year at Bonaventure. He and Bob Lanier were the only 2 guys. So a very underrated player for us, but a wonderful man and a great family man, so we're happy to have him back as well for his 50th anniversary. Just to talk a little bit about what we tried to do here. Now, things are totally different, obviously, from our time coaching to what Mark has. The job that Mark has now is almost impossible. I don't understand how you can build a program every year. And I think what Tom was saying is you try to get that culture and you try to build on that and bring your players in that you feel fit into that system. We were fortunate because at the time, Bonaventure had a great name. We were just coming off of the Final Four and another final in the NIT, and we had good players, we had good coaches, and we were able to recruit the Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, DC, New York City areas and build that on a constant basis. And we knew that we were going to have those guys for 4 years. You know, they weren't coming in here and leaving after 1 year. And that was the big difference that I see between what Mark has to do and what we did at that point. But we tried to get good people, people that could do well academically here, or at least pass anyways academically, you know, try to get them in. And I think we looked at a lot of different ways and our styles, and Bill Calball was my assistant for a lot of those times. He was a great player here at Bonaventure. I still talk to him all the time. And he made it a lot easier for me and for us at this point too. So yeah, it was a different time and a different era, and we were able to go to Canada and get some good players. We got Norb Clark, we got Rob Samuels, we got Barry Munger. You know, he got Andrew Nicholson from there. So we've had a nice little pipeline, you know, to Canada coming in, and that's not the same anymore. You know, now you got national people coming into Canada and recruiting all of them, and so I think that was what we tried to do. That's how we tried to build our program, with people that we knew we felt comfortable with, that were going to be here, happy to be here. You know, this was not the easiest place to recruit to, and people use that against us all the time. They probably use it against Mark at this point the same way. But, you know, I think our program has gotten to the point where we have a fabulous coach and a guy that has brought us in. And I think the one thing that kind of knows that we've kind of made it here a little bit is that a couple times last year, a couple of people came to me and told me how disappointed they were in the season we had last year. I said, holy shit. I said, we won 20 games last year. You know what you're saying right now? We won 20 games at St. Bonaventure. That's not easy to do in a hard league and in the situation that we had. So I think we've gotten to that point. So 25 should be expected next year, I would think. I would hope so anyways, yeah.
Mark, you're up, Freddie.
How can I follow that?
Well, you know, and again, I'd like you to think a bit, harken back, because grew up under some terrific coaches like Gary Williams and the Park Hills, and your mentor Skip Prosser, late Skip Prosser. And I sometimes wonder, we both know Gary well, as does Jim. What would Gary Williams be like in this game today?
He wouldn't be in this game. He was a guy that didn't cheat and did it the right way. And Coach Prosser, as you said, he was the one that taught me how to coach. He once told me that 10% of the game is X's and O's, and 90% of the game is relationships. Getting the kids to play hard for you. And how do you get them to play hard for you is you got to show them that you love them. And it's all about relationships, and it's changed now. As Jim talked about, recruiting high school kids. We really don't recruit high school kids anymore. The problem with the portal is you don't win with young players anymore. You don't win with freshmen and sophomores. You win with juniors and seniors and grad students. And when you recruit a high school kid, he's not going to help you win the Atlantic 10. He'll help you win some games, but he's not going to get you to where you want to go. He has to become a sophomore, junior, or senior. And if he has a good freshman year, and a good freshman year is like 5 to 6 points, he's leaving and he's going to St. John's for $300,000. It's just how the business is now. It's the portal is something that a lot of people don't agree with it, but it is what it is, and we've adapted, I think, pretty well. I think we've had brought in some very good players this year that are here on campus now. But in the past, as you're recruiting high school kids, you build relationships with their parents, with their high school coach, with their AAU coach, with the guy that cuts their hair. You know everything about this kid that you're recruiting. And now it's like recruiting on steroids. It's 3 years ago I didn't know what Zoom was. All right? And there's probably people in this thing. Remember that show Zoom? Like that, yeah, you're showing your age. That's when I'm like, Zoom, like what the hell are we doing with Zoom? And so now, and I know Matt Papano's up here, I don't even know how to turn on the computer and do all this Zoom. All I know is how to talk into the screen. So my guys, every day, 24/7, they look at the portal. And that's how we recruit. It's no longer high school kids going to AAU tournaments, and it's now looking at the portal and finding guys' names that we recognize, that we say, we recruited them out of high school, we recruited them out of junior college, we didn't get them, and then we call them up, see if they're interested, we watch tape, we do a Zoom, and 24 hours later, he either decides he wants to take a visit or not, and he'll come on visit 48 hours, 72 hours later, and either he's coming or he's going someplace else. So the relationships that we built, with Andrew Nicholson or Jalen Adams, those are irrelevant now. Now it's just building a team for this year. It's no more building programs, because if you have a good freshman, if we had Andrew Nicholson, guys, right, after his freshman year, he would have gone to Kansas for $1 million. That's just how this thing is. So we're trying to build it with portal guys, and we're still trying to get a Bonaventure player. A Bonaventure kid, somebody that academics are important to him, someone that's not going to embarrass us socially, someone certainly not going to embarrass me. We're still going to do it the right way. It's just not with high school kids, it's with portal kids.
Mark, Jim's recruiting, he's recruiting Glenn, well, Larry recruited Glenn, and then Jim was an assistant on the staff. You were building up in Jim's time, and even when you were being recruited by BC, that rapport with the kid and the family. You knew the character of the kid, you've been in his home. You did it maybe not his sophomore year, junior year, your assistant's waiting. So suddenly you're going to the portal list. Mm-hmm. How do you find where the character, what level of character it is? What's the chance in that?
Yeah, you try to do as much homework as you can in a quick period of time. We're not going to bring in renegades. We're not going to bring in guys that score 30 points at 9 o'clock and we're getting a call from the Olean police at midnight. We're still going to do our job and bringing in the right type of kids that take academics seriously. But kids, we talk kids who want to be pros. In order for us to beat VCU and beat Dayton and all those schools, we need pros. And, you know, I get a lot of credit for the success that we've had. But in my years here, we've had 31 guys sign professional contracts, 3 guys in the NBA. That's why we've won. You know, that's... I say it all the time, you've never seen a good team with bad players. You know, you've seen some good teams with questionable coaching. But you need players, and we're going to get players, but we're not going to do it in spite of the whole character thing. We're still going to bring in guys that you're going to be proud of.
I've heard a commentator say on one of your games, Schmidt has more plays than Shakespeare. Jim tells me stories about when different ACC coaches come through the dome where he sees them on the road that have played you, Clemson played you in a tournament. When coaches talk about you and how your prep and your adjustment at halftime and end-of-game situations. How hard is that to continue that with the revolving roster?
Yeah, it's much more difficult. I think if you watched our teams in the last couple of years, we don't run nearly as much as we used to. Just because, you know, the way I coach offense is like you put your basic offense in, and then you have counters off of that. So you run a certain play, and then you have a counter off of that play, and then you have another counter. And we're not getting to other counter now, just because, like last year we had Mike Adams Woods and Chucky Pride, and they were only with us for 7 months. And everybody talks about like those guys played for 4 years and they're experienced, but they're freshmen in our program. You know, all the stuff that we run, all the terminology, just, you know, the terminology of how to guard a ball screen. Everything has changed. So they're trying to learn our sets, the way we do things, our terminology, in essence, in like 2 months, 3 months. And it's hard. So you don't want to have guys out in the court thinking too much. And the more you put in, if they don't have a grasp for it, then they're thinking. And then their feet get slow, and then by the time they figure the play out, the ball's going the other way. So we've really reduced the stuff that we run. And some people probably say we don't run it well anyways. But it's changed the way we've coached. In terms of what we put in, how much we put in, it has changed, and it's frustrating because I love offense. If I was an NFL coach, I'd love to be the offensive coordinator. I just love sitting at a desk and just trying to figure out how to beat a certain defense, and that's just fun. But it's not that way. You know, we still run stuff, but we don't run as much as we've had in the past, and that's going to continue.
Jim, you know, you're dealing with ACC coaches constantly, and non-league games too that come through the dome. What's the themes you're hearing from coaches when we look at the Dukes and the Carolinas? And what do you see every day? And you're going to see coaches up in Rochester over the next 2 days.
You know, I think they have the same frustration that Mark has. I mean, they're losing guys too. Hard to believe, but you know, they're losing guys to other teams in their league. And you know, he's told me some great stories about. You know, I don't want to cut you off here. That's why he makes a lot of money, by the way, too. So don't feel terrible about the fact that he's got, you know, he's hard down. It's tough to do this. You know, that's what we're thinking about. I made $12,000 my first year at St. Bonaventure. But
what do you think the SID was making?
Well, you're right there. But I think that, honestly, when you're looking at a lot of these teams in each one, he would tell me that when a kid came into him and said, hey, Coach, I'm going to go into the portal, and I hope this wasn't one of your stories, but I will say it anyways. He said, he says to each one of these players, okay, let's talk about why. You know, is it me? You know, you don't get along with me? Is it, you know, you're not playing as much, you're homesick? Whatever the reason might be. And I want you to go back with your parents, go back with your AAU coach, whatever it is, and take 24 hours. And I want you to then make a decision, come back to me and tell me, yes, I'm going, no, I want to stay. And if you want to stay, terrific, love to have you. If you don't want to stay, you're done. You know, you're not coming back here, there's no scholarship available for you because I've got to go out and get players too. I think that's the issue that everybody has. When you lose somebody late, like Colgate just lost that Patriot League guard. Terrific player, player of the year for them. He went to Gonzaga. Think about that now. He went from Colgate to Gonzaga for a lot of money, right? And so, but he was from out in that area. But when you think about it now, he tells the coach this, you know, June 1st or May 38th or 31st or whatever it was, and he's got to get another player. Now, somehow he's got to go through the portal or do something and get somebody else, and that's probably not going to happen. So what's going to happen to Colgate? They'll probably take a step down, you know. So it's all those kind of things I think that these people are looking at and trying to figure out how to do it. It's a terrible time to coach, honestly, kidding aside with all the other things. It's a terrible time to coach. It's a terrible time to try to develop relationships with guys and to rebuild every year. You know, I remember Jay Wright when he won the national championship 5 years ago or whatever. They asked him about it. He said, well, the first thing you got to do is get in the locker room and re-recruit my players. I got to re-recruit the guys that can come back. I mean, that's sad. You think about what's happened to college athletics now that's where we're at. That was something I never had to worry about. Guys, you know, when we won the NIT and Hagan and Sanders and those guys were just juniors, today they'd be long gone. You know, but they were coming back. We knew they were coming back. We could build a program around them. And I think that's the difference that we see today with what these guys go through. And it's not just Bonaventure. Syracuse is going through the same thing. They lost 8 players this year off of their roster. Jerry McNamara, who was a nice guy, who was their assistant coach, went to Siena and took over the job there, lost all 12 players out of his roster, which is probably okay because there were 428. So it's all right. But I think in general, when you look at it, you know, that's what you're dealing with. You're going out and getting all these new players, and that's really difficult to try to. And then you got to, once you get them, then you got to get them to play together. You know, they've never played together, these guys, before, so I think that's a major part of it as well.
Does the college basketball need a czar? Does the game need a czar?
I'm not doing anything. I'm kind of retired.
I'll be your PR
Staying
guy.
back, yeah. You could be my assistant, my communications guy. Yeah.
We do, I just don't know who it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Like, we need somebody, you know, I think, you know, Emmert, who's the NCAA president, you know, when all this stuff hit the ceiling, I think, you know, we need somebody better than that. I'm from Massachusetts now. We got the former governor of Massachusetts. I'm not sure that's good. But yeah, we need somebody that, we need some parameters. Like right now, there's no rules. We can do whatever we want. We can give as much money as we want. So there's got to be some rules that we can follow. And I'm not sure what those rules are.
Do you think, with the power of the conferences, do you think they could agree on who the czar is and give him or her the latitude to be a czar in the sense of how we look at pro commissioners?
Yeah, the problem is it's the Power Five, or now they call it the Autonomous Four. Like, they run everything. And if you've seen the suit that the NCAA lost, you know, $2.78 billion. You know, out of that, 40% of it's going to be paid by the Autonomous Four. 60% of it is going to be paid by the Big East and everybody down, including us. You know, so if we put a czar in there, it's got to be somebody that's looking at the best, what's best for everybody, not what's best for those top 4 programs or 4 leagues. Because, you know, as everybody knows, it comes down to money. You know, and those Autonomous Four, they're making millions and millions of dollars, much more than the Big East or the Atlantic 10.
And that's why we hired Bob Beretta.
Bingo.
Tomorrow morning, you two wake up and someone says, you can change one rule. What rule would you change? Not a playing rule. A rule that deals with where the game is at now. Not on the floor. Jim? Oh, Mark.
I'll go. I think we need a salary cap. We need, you know, each school has, you know, say it's $1 million. And you can, just like the NBA, you can pay one guy $900,000 and the other 11 and 12 guys, you know, $5,000. But I think that's what I'm talking about, parameters. I think if we have a salary cap, that will help. There'll still be cheating. You know, some people will go above the salary cap. But I think if we have a salary cap, at least we know what we have, and then we can disperse the money that way.
I was kind of going to say the same thing, but they talk about the NIL, name, image, and likeness, and now what they call it is now it's illegal. And there's no illegal things anymore. You can do whatever you want to do, pretty much. You can pay players, you can help them transport places, and it's fine. The problem I see with that market, that salary cap, is that the horse is already out of the barn here. There's going to be lawsuits upon lawsuits upon lawsuits from some kids and his agent. Because I think what we have to remember too is when a kid comes in the portal, he knows this better than anybody. That kid has an agent right now. Kids in Syracuse last year had an agent. And whatever they get in the NIL, he gets a percentage of that, just like any agent would do.
The kid with the glasses for Indiana State, he went. Their coach got the job at St. Louis, and they paid him $700,000.
We talked a month ago about the ACC teams coming through, and other than Carolina, maybe Duke, and now it's reached Duke. As you see, those schools that we think have everything going through the same thing. What are those coaches talking about? How do you stay in the game? How do you stay energized?
Yeah, I just think, Bob said it yesterday, and if you don't adjust, you're going to die. You got to adjust. It's like we may not agree, and some people may not agree with the NIL and paying players, but we've got to do it. If we want to stay in the game, and we're not going to do it at the level that VCU's doing it, but we got to stay in the game, and that's just the nature of this business. It's not cheating. It's the business now, and some guys disagree with it, and they always especially the older people that believe that these kids are on scholarship. We're giving them a platform. They eat for free, they travel for free, they get the best coaching, But as we do these Zooms, and I go through the whole process, the academics, the way we play, how you're going to fit in, all that stuff, then I open it up for questions at the end. And what do you think the first question is? What am I going to get paid? It's not about, the fit, the academics. It's about what am I going to get paid? And if we don't have money, then we're not going to be where we need to be.
For those of us that got cut from cross country and got a chance to go to St. Bonaventure, I always think one of the great things about this place, and we got our Hall of Fame class meeting, but to the 125 of us who had dinner last night in Hickey, it was Glenn, our classmate, our first Rob floor mate, economics major. The second Dev guys in Jim Satlin's era dominated intramural sports. We played, we ate, we went to classes with, we had gargoyle parties with. We didn't know them as basketball players. We knew who they were, but they were one of us. And that fabric is carried on. I think our generation is like pining for that. I didn't know Bob, because we came as freshmen when his senior year, we were in high school seniors. But I've got to know Bob through Jim, and it wasn't like I'm Bob Lanier, I'm NBA first round draft pick, I'm a Hall of Famer. It was Bob, the guy that played softball in front of Devereaux Hall, and that's how we knew him. And so we're pining for that, the people in the room, and I'd hate to put that burden on you. We want you to win 25 too, like Jim says.
Yeah, that's not going to change. We're going to still recruit the right types of kids, and the kids aren't going to feel like they're better than anybody. That's not going to change. It's just the process has changed a little bit, and how we go about things. But we're not going to sacrifice, character for a better player. That's just not going to happen.
I guess my thing is what I'm pining for is, do the students get to know the way we know Glenn?
Yeah, well, it's different now because we're only going to have them for a year or so. So it's different. We're not going to have. I think Oshun and Kyle and Jaron, that class will probably be the last class that ever goes through here for 4 years, which is a shame, but that's where we're headed to.
What I'm impressed by, you talk about, the number of pros you've had. How many Hall of Fame basketball players will you coach here after that class? We will know them as Hall of Famers. We'll know them as pros that will coach them to Mark Schmidt, got them ready to go to Europe if they could.
Yeah, there's never going to be, I don't think, like 1,000-point scorers anymore. Like all of that, assist leaders. I think the guys that are in the record books now, they don't have to worry about it. Because it's just not going to happen. We're not going to have guys here for 4 years any longer. You know, either they're going to leave because they're not playing, or they're going to leave because they're playing well and they're going to get more money. You know, and the other thing too is, like, when these kids leave, it's not like you're upset at them. You know, like when Oshun left and that whole class, like where these kids are from, and like Oshun was offered $400,000. He made $400,000 at Iowa State. Like, how can you tell a kid not to do that? You can't. You know, $400,000 may be the most money that his family has ever seen. So you can't not have them go. That's like, it would be dumb. It would be like malpractice if I told them to stay. You know, so we can't be upset at the kids because they're just following the rules. Like, if anybody here, I talked to somebody last night, if you're a junior here and IBM offered you $1 million as a junior, would you stay here because you needed to graduate? No, you'd be going for that $1 million and you come back after and get your degree. You know, so the players are, that's, in essence, it's an analogy, but that's the same thing that they're going through. You can't stop them from earning a living.
And when
you know?
they came back, they'd make a big donation to the School of Business.
You would hope.
I just, what gets you energized every day, and what keeps coaches going in this environment? You know, Jay Wright's a good friend, and I don't know Coach Saban, but it was obviously they got to a point in their success where they said, you know, I've had enough. You know, there's no more capstone for them on the court. And you're hearing that more and more from coaching friends. You guys know more guys than I do, and you're hearing that constantly. What keeps you going?
I just enjoy coaching. I enjoy being on the court. I don't enjoy the portal and doing Zooms. I like practice. Like, I live for 3 to 6. That's the best time of my day. And I love coaching, putting teams together. That's why I enjoy it. And it's more difficult now because you're putting a different team together every single year rather than putting 2 or 3 guys into the puzzle. Now you're fixing the whole puzzle or putting the whole puzzle together every year. But I enjoy coaching. I enjoy being with the young guys, and it's still fun. It's probably not as fun because you don't build the relationships that you've built with Andrew Nicholson or guys that have been with you for 4 years. But it's still fun.
Jim, as you look back, would you say like...
I was kind of wondering when I was going to be able to maybe hop in here just once here.
We were going to excuse you, but...
Holy cow, I could leave now and go home, yeah.
He's making the money.
That's true. Yeah.
It's all yours.
Maybe it's safe to say, like, the most traumatic change that you faced was when they made freshmen eligible, 1972, or maybe the evolution of conferences. But as you look back, like, and built a culture and program, think back about freshman ineligibility. It was like, oh my Lord, they're going to let the freshmen play. And I think Walter Luckett was on the cover of Sports Magazine, Sports Illustrated. Went to Ohio U. We were recruiting them. But anyway, talk about that change and the spiral we're in now.
You know, that the freshmen, when I think back about it too, Bob Lanier plays on the freshman team. Stop it. We're playing Al Marooney Chevrolet in the freshman game, and Bob is starting against some guy who's like 48 years old.
Looked like Bonaventure.
Yeah. So I mean that was a huge difference when all of a sudden freshmen could become eligible, and they could have played right from the beginning, of course, but it was just that stigma that they had to. It was like football guys, the freshmen in football. So I think that was a major change. The other major change is really, and I think Mark was coaching at this point too, was the 3-point shot and the shot clock. I mean, that changed the whole game of basketball. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Just you recruited shooters all of a sudden that you hadn't done before. You watch teams that, Villanova that year won the NCAA, they had like 5 shooters,
right.
5'6" guys, and they win a national championship. So I think coaches and people looked at it totally different then and what you kind of try to do based on the rules, and freshmen were coming in immediately and playing. We had a great guard here, Glenn Hagan, who to this day he tells me that I screwed his whole career up because I put him on the freshman team, and we were going on a tournament. We were playing in Maryland, playing against UCLA, as a matter of fact, and Coach Wooden and I didn't take him. I left him home, and he still tells me, because about 2 games after that, he started and averaged like 14 a game for the rest of his freshman season. Nice coaching on my part with that one. And, so I think that's the thing. You have to be able to recognize that at that point, can a player play? You know, it comes down to the bottom line. Is he better than the guys you have? Can he play? And a lot of these kids, you know, certainly could do that, and they do it today. I mean, there's no freshman that walks in to play college basketball thinks he's not going to play. You know, that guy thinks he's better than everybody else on that roster. It's a great thing when you have confidence, but sometimes that doesn't work particularly well that way either. So, yeah, I think those are the big changes. The three-point shot, the shot clock where you couldn't hold the ball anymore. You know, you remember the game we played, Dick Vitale, or Dick, and he was doing a game on TV. We played Rutgers, who was very, very good. And we ended up beating them 30-29. I'm embarrassed to say that now that we did that. But it was a riveting game on TV, I'm sure. You know, trying to get it. So it was. That's the change, and it's changed for the better. No question about those 3 things. Changed the game for the better.
Mark, how about you in that period before this crazy train station we're going? Oh, I do want you to talk about the changing of the entry into the portal. We talked about that last week. I think folks would like to hear about that.
Yeah, important. I think this past year, the kids could put the name in the portal the day after Selection Sunday. And so what coaches do, like, and we did it as well, is we would have our exit interviews on Sunday because we knew guys were going to put their name in the portal on Monday. And that was the whole thing that happened with the NIT stuff. You know, we didn't have a team. So they pushed the portal entry a week later. So the second week of the NCAA tournament, that's when the kids can put their name in the portal. So that will allow everybody to have a full team for postseason play. All right, does that make sense? Yeah, so, and that's a positive because, like, I'm a firm believer, like, at Bonaventure, you can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Either you're in or you're out. And if you're out, you are out. And that's, you know, Jim talked about how we run our when a kid puts his name in the portal, I give him 24 hours. And when he comes back, you know, he gives me, I want to stay in or I want to, you know, come back. And I do that because we built this program and we don't want anybody using us, right? There's no way a kid is going to put his name in the portal and put his name out there and find, you know, try to look for other schools and then not happy with those schools and they're going to come back to Bonaventure. Like, our program is too special for that. You know, it's like, there's not a guy or a girl in here would allow their husband or wife to say, you know something, I'm going to go, give me a couple weeks. And then if I don't see what I like, I'm going to come back. Like, that ain't happening at Bonaventure.
This looks like the new St. Bonaventure team walking in right here.
It is.
Welcome.
Nice having you guys here. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to have you talk about your recruiting class, but before you do, closing comments, things that are racing through your 2 minds, where we sit here. James?
What was that now? I thought you were talking to him like you do it normally. I wasn't paying attention. Sorry.
Well, your closing comments, I think that, you know, as you think about this issue, the game in upheaval, that was the theme, credit Christy Blocker, the game in upheaval. Is any closing thoughts that you think we shared since we've been here?
You know, Bonaventure is, just by looking, we did a Zoom call last week.
Yeah, we were going to get 40 people here.
Yeah, 40 people were coming in for this, and I said to Lindsay, I said, Lindsay, I don't think there'll be 40 people listening to Bonaventure basketball. There'll be more like 140 people, and that's probably what we have. So I think being a graduate of Bonaventure, I played here, I captained here. We had great teams when I was playing because of a guy like Bob Lanier and Bill Butler and so on. And we won a lot of games, and that was fun. And I met my wife here, and my kids were born here. So when you think about Bonaventure, you think about all those things. And I love St. Bonaventure. I come back as many times as I possibly can. And I think a lot of you people are in the same boat that I am. You just love being on this campus and understanding what the people mean and what they meant to you 55 years ago in this case, and what they still mean today. So, I mean, my whole thoughts about the program, we've got, I mentioned it early on too, that we were at the depths, not that long ago, and this program was almost down to nothing. And because of him, we've become relevant again in college basketball. And I think that that's something that everybody should be proud of and be happy that we've got a guy like him, and let's hope that we keep him as long as we possibly can. So I'm thrilled with where this program has gone. I'm thrilled that we got young men that come in here now and are going to experience the same kind of thing about what Bonaventure is and what we feel like when we walk on the court, or people, you run into them every place. You run into Bonaventure people everywhere. Somebody said that to me the other day. I was having lunch with Donna DeToda, who was one of the former basketball player here who writes for the Syracuse paper, and DJ Carstensen, who's a national referee. And I walk into this restaurant, there's a guy walking out, Bill Chambers, class of 75. And he said, "Hey, coach, how you doing? About what we're talking." One of the guys, I think it was DJ, said, "Bonaventure people are like everywhere. Like you can't go around it. Every time you turn around, there's a Bonaventure guy." And I said, "That's exactly what it is." And that's why I'm so proud to be a part of what this is, and so happy to be able to come in here today and talk to everybody about what a great program we have.
Dave Gavitt used to say, "For little school, you people are everywhere." And Jim Marchioni, class of 76, he's had a career in sports, and he was a Hall of Fame tennis player here. Jim said, "Yeah, Dave, and we let you know we're here."
I have one thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, I got in trouble 2 years ago because I called the Bonaventure alums or Bonanation a cult. And we have an athletic director now that used that word yesterday. So we're back as a cult.
Again, thanks to coaches Sattler and Schmidt for rearranging their weekend to make this possible. Enjoy your visit to Oak Hill. And congratulations on.
I'm looking forward to losing some balls today. But I appreciate everybody coming. Hopefully this was educational. Believe me, we're not going to take a step back. We're adjusting, and everything's going to be fine. So our goal is to win the Atlantic 10 this year and go to the NCAA tournament. And, that's our challenge. I appreciate the support that you guys have given us coming to the games financially. Just please keep it up. Thanks.